It's time. The Dune 2 spoiler review. Now, before we get started, I want to thank the sponsor of today's review, and that is Hamilton Watch, baby. That's right. Hamilton Watches is the watchmakers for filmmakers. Hamilton Watch has been around since like the 1930s in the film industry, and they've done a lot of different things, whether it's the current collections, they've done customized watches, and then they do some prop watches, and they do that a little bit differently here with Dune Part 2. Unlike previous collaborations where Hamilton either selected existing watches, delved into archives, or created entirely new designs, the world of Dune demanded a different approach. At Denis Villeneuve's request, Hamilton worked alongside the film's prop master Doug Harloff to craft a watch for another world that defies traditional watch norms. The Ventura Bright includes a button replicating the glowing blue lines of the desert watch dial design. The limited edition piece comes with commemorative packaging inspired by the film that fans of the movies and the books and collectors will enjoy. While the Desert Watch is exclusive to Arrakis, its creative influence has inspired Hamilton to launch 2 limited edition watches in February of 2024, coinciding with the release of Dune Part 2. All right, so go and check out the link in the description. I was lucky to get one of these things. They're limited. And if you're a Dune fan like me, and you're a collector, and you can do it, it's worth the buy. So go and check it out. Take a look. Once again, this really is for the Dune collectors. This is a very special watch that Denis Villeneuve was working on himself to get it done. So thank you to Hamilton, the watchmakers for filmmakers. I appreciate it. See you later. All right, here we go. It is the spoiler review for Dune Part 2. If you've been paying attention to this channel, you know how much I've been raving about it. We've done a whole bunch of podcasts on it. We did an out of the theater reaction. We did a non-spoiler. Well, of course, there's going to be a spoiler review, and then there's going to be a longer discussion on Monday as well. But, man, I love this movie. You're brand new to the channel. You've never been here. Hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 200,000 faster than we got to 100. We hope that you join us for the ride. Dune Part 2 is one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. It is one of the best science fiction movies maybe ever. And there's just so much to it. You can see where a lot of the inspirations, whether it's Star Wars, a lot of different movies, got their inspiration for with Dune. I mean, Paul Atreides is essentially Anakin and Luke and all wrapped in one. The moments of where we take, like I said this before in the non-spoiler review, people say, what's better, 2 or 1? 2 elevates 1, 1 elevates 2. It's just, this is a full structured film because the first movie ends with Paul Atreides with the Fremen, him and his mother trying to figure out their way, and it kind of just abruptly kind of ends. I didn't mind that. I liked it because I knew Part 2 was coming. I knew that there was sometimes these movies will end and they're like, well, they don't even know where the hell this movie's going. Of course they knew where this movie was going. And it goes with the fact that Paul has to get, he wants to be there. He wants to be with the Fremen. The Fremen's still like, I don't know about this kid. I don't know about him and his mom. We should kill him. We should get rid of him. And Zendaya's Chani is the one she's hesitant. She's accepting, but she's hesitant as she obviously has something for Paul, but she even says as much that she's looking, there's something different about him, right? But it's Stilgar who really is starting to believe in the prophecy and starts to get more and more people involved in believing the prophecy. It's him who takes the approach where they're saying about Jessica, they're saying, what are we going to do about the mother? And he's like, well, I got an option. We've got to make him believe. And then he kind of abandons that a little bit more, and she's the one who's kind of really on it. He as much gets mad at her at one point for saying, you know, what are you doing here? What are you trying to do? What are you doing this? I want these people to trust us. And there's this, I don't know, man. It's just from the second this thing starts and the relationship with the Fremen, and this spends a lot of time with their beliefs, the religious aspect of it, the prophecy. And as I said, it elevates number 1 when you go back and you see that conversation that Paul has with Duncan about the Fremen, and you go back and you watch 1 after you see 2, and you see these things that start to really elevate what the overall mission is. And there's really this tragic thing that happens with Paul, because if you watch traditional movies, if you didn't read Dune, you think, okay, well, he's probably going to come around and he'll wind up winning, and then he'll take the love of his life. And he doesn't. This is why the Anakin side of it comes. This is, to me, the best turn to the dark side that I think we've seen. This is one of the best turns ever to the dark side, because he basically defeats the Emperor, takes his daughter in the face of love. And the tragic part about it is he tells China, he goes, I cannot go there. I cannot go there. If I go there, I see shit going down. I cannot go there. And what happens? He's got to go. It's forced. No matter how much he tries to escape his fate, he's got to go. And by the time he goes, and after he goes, and once he drinks that juice also, it's over. It's like it just switches. He goes, and then shit goes down. And she knows. There's this, the look at the end when she's staring at him, and she just knows she's lost. And it's like, as long as he's him, she'll be in love. He ain't him anymore. But throughout all of this, I mean, the performance by Timothee Chalamet was, you see why this kid's a movie star. I still think Zendaya, to me, was the one who blew me away. She blew me away because she encaptures a lot of the stuff. I believe that she's a warrior. I believe that the chemistry that the two of them have, I understand why they're so in love, and I understand her passion for her people. And there's this moment where she says to him, they're having like this kind of little bit of a lover's quarrel, and she tells him that, well, you're not Fremen. And he goes, but I am. And or whatever the particular line is, more so like I've been accepted. And she's like, yeah, you are, but not by blood. But they have this. But she's like, I accept you. I do this. And you can see this is a funny thing when Denis Villeneuve talks about the dialogue, about how he wishes there was no dialogue. He's a master of it. He's a master of it. They have so much great dialogue that he was able to pull from the Frank Herbert book that transfers over so wonderfully in this. And this is why this movie is about a 5.5, 6 hour epic film all lumped together. And the addition of Austin Butler as Fade is one of the best villains, because I thought that Bautista, I did not read the book, right? So I didn't know. So I thought that Rabin was going to be the guy who is the Vader. I thought he was going to be the guy because they set him up that he's just kind of a pure beast, if you will. And he's not. He's kind of like, I don't think bumbling fool is the right word, but he's a disappointment. He's a disappointment to the Baron. He's a disappointment in general. He can't get things done. He's trying to, and once Fade comes in, it's just like, and the scene in the Harkonnen arena, and the way that they shot that in the black and the white, but it's like, it wasn't just like, oh, now we're going to just do we're just gonna make an homage to Robert Rodriguez here. It didn't feel like that at all. It was more so like, oh no, this is the planet that they're on, and it was intense. The music, the Hans Zimmer score throughout this entire film, but that scene in particular, where they show that this guy is kind of, they set him up to where he could be like a maniac playboy, right? But and almost like a Joffrey. But the difference with Joffrey is that Joffrey was not a badass. He pretended that he was, right? And he used the protection of his royalty. Fade's a badass. And Fade, when he comes into it and he's doing these, he knows he's just gonna have an easy victory. And then once Baron sets him up and says, no, you're not gonna have it easy this time. You gotta prove yourself. He proves himself and more, and he won't let the guys around him interfere. He's like, get out of there. I'm doing this myself. And then he gives the guy the same. It's the same. You get so much in the character of Fade there, where he tells him, he's like, you fought well, Atreides, and then when you get that thing at the end with Paul, because I didn't know what was going to happen, because I was like, this is a kind of story, and I'm hearing all this stuff how this is kind of a Empire Strikes Back of Dune, and it certainly is, but I was like, well, maybe Paul Atreides dies. Maybe he doesn't survive this. Maybe this vision, because we saw what happened at the end of Dune 1 when he thought that dude was going to be helping him out, but he wound up killing him. So maybe this vision, that what he sees, maybe he doesn't make it. And then he gets stabbed. I'm like, oh man, I don't think he's going to make it. And then he makes it. And that's when it just right to the dark side. That whole scene right to the dark side. And just the quest for power, and the tragedy on knowing that that's where it's going to go. And you see, and he's not the only one with the turn. Like Jessica's the other one. Jessica goes from, protecting Mother, and that is definitely her objective is protecting mother, but she goes into the religious fanatic, and she turns into it because she knows, and it's like it's like the thing you see in politics and everything too, going, that's your guy. Follow that guy. Here's the reason why. That's your guy. And doing it through fear and doing it through means that you see this progression where it's not like just this kind of fast turn. It's a progression throughout the entire thing, especially when there's these moments where Paul just wants to be part of the Fremen. And this stuff with when he's riding on the worm and the exception, it'd be the acceptance from the people as it's like, again, the gradual build to it, and then the politics and Christopher Walken I was nervous about, right? And it's not his fault. He's a great actor, but there's been so many impressions of Christopher Walken, and there's so many when you hear him, he's like, what? Who? And when you hear anybody do it, you automatically just start thinking of impressions, and I'm like, oh no, is he going to be convincing? And it's not his fault, and he was. Florence Pugh I thought was great as his daughter, the head Reverend Mother. That throwback scene to where she is basically trying to control Paul and he tells her silence and she just kind of, whoa. Like all of that. And the throwback to the fact that she was basically able to do this first thing, that thing to him in the first movie with the box, and to see where it comes there. The writing of this movie, and you can say, well, the writing in the book was great. Of course it was. But there is an art to being able to adapt a book into a coherent 5.5 hour film, beautiful visual film, and keep you on your toes, keep you engaged. And this does it. The way that this movie is shot, the way that this movie, the score is as much of a character as anything else. The opening scene, by the way, when because some people think that the first movie was boring or slow. I don't feel that way. I think it's an incredible setup to the characters. I think it's an incredible setup in general to the world. I think that it really elevates this movie because of the investment. But you just see the way it kind of transfers over and the way that they are able to bring this to screen from the book. And it's just the screenwriting, the acting, the cinematography, the music, everything about it. It's just, I think I said this, I don't know if I said it on one of the podcasts or one of the reviews, but I was in the theater, and as I was watching the movie, I looked up when it was over and I said, wow, it's just an experience. It's just an experience overall, and I can't wait to see it again. And I loved, that's why we're going to do a full hour-long discussion on this on Monday with myself and John Rocca on Monday. So, but that's overall, this movie is just, it's a spectacle. And Denis Villeneuve is a magician, as I said in my out of the theater reaction. There's just so many great things about it. The way that they interweave the prophecy, and because even though this book came out in the 60s, we've seen so much film and television with the prophecies and the one. How do you do it again to where even if people are, people aren't going to always say, well, they did it first, because we've seen it a million times. How do you make it fresh? They made it fresh. They made it work. They made you care about everyone involved in it. And it's just, and so many different characters, and the way that end fight is just such a classic film. I loved classic film moment. I loved when Paul walks in, though, at the very end, because I thought it was going to be this kind of just big battle where he's going to have to, get his way into the Emperor, and then there's going to be another big battle there, and he's going to have to battle out with the Baron. It's like, no. Hey, Grandpa, guess what? I'm going to kill your ass. And just walk in there with no problem whatsoever. Grandfather, you're dead. You knew shit was going down when that happened. And Fade looking on in the background like, all right, respect. This movie. Loved it. Anyway, that's the first portion of the spoiler, if you will. We're going to do the longer one on Monday, but I got to get your thoughts on it, man. Did you get a chance? Obviously, you got a chance to see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, I hope. What did you think? Did you love the movie as much as I did? Did you think it was worth the hype? Was it overhyped? Was it underhyped? What say you? Again, if you're brand new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 200,000. And once again, thank you to Hamilton Watch for sponsoring the show here today, or the review rather. All right, guys. See you on the flip side.